Hi, Sam. It's been a while. How are you doing? How's everything?
Yeah, very good, very good. It's interesting times we're coming upon us with the 3G shutdown 20 years later, and a lot
Yeah.
of opportunity for new technologies to replace the old.
Yeah. With 4G networks, 5G potentially as well, low power networks. It's interesting times. It's not without its teething issues, but it's the natural course of things, I would say, up to a point.
Yeah, over the years, there's been so many existing systems in place, be it telematics, traffic lights, vending machines, so many operational systems already that the users have the opportunity now to have a look at again and see what's more efficient, what can be done better, more reliable, more secure, and not necessarily have to cost much more going forward to being future proof.
Oh, yeah, exactly. It's a chance to revisit everything and just try and get a bit more efficient, a bit more effective. I would say it's an opportunity. Although, as we said, it's not without its issues or it might not be as smooth as everyone would like it to be. But I think coming out of this, it will be better for each company and each device manufacturer or anyone operating in either the IoT space or in telecoms in general to utilize this as a key opportunity to do it. Or else you wouldn't go down this road if this wasn't happening, I would imagine.
A lot of our customers are trying to get on the front foot now with depends on the region you're in. Australia, New Zealand, sometime next year, most of the 3G networks will be turned off, and there's a bit of planning or change management planning that needs to take place. And a lot of them are looking for guidance as to who to partner with in terms of getting a full stack IoT or telematics solution in place to make sure that whatever is replaced now or upgraded, if you like, is future proof.
Yeah, and has that longevity. That's why working with either 4G or eventually 5G, but 4G is very good and very usable for the IoT space. There's ways that it can be compatible in the long term. And that's one of the key things that longevity of the device, the longevity of the services, was having everything in mind, which I'm not sure everyone had that when they first deployed with 2G and 3G. Data is data now. Before 3G had circuit switch, packet switch, all these different kind of ways to communicate. Now it's just all under the data, if you will, umbrella. So I think it's a key time for anyone that can look into this in a lot more detail. Contacting you guys as well with your key in your area as well and the knowledge that you can bring to anyone, help them walk them through this whole process, Soracom as well. I think everyone should look into this. Take it as an opportunity because eventually it will happen. The European networks, I think they're around 65% 3G shutdowns have happened already. Asia as well, as you said, Australia, New Zealand. I think by the end of next year or September next year, something like that, there won't be any 3G networks. And it's just going to happen everywhere. Companies want to do this, improve the efficiency of the 4G and 5G networks, customer centricity as well with their consumer based 5G data speeds. It will happen. It's an inevitability, if you will, but also an opportunity, as you said.
And it's interesting as a lot of the partners, let's call it the ones that are willing to explore what they've had deployed in operation. There's millions of devices on the 3G network. And when I say on the 3G network, IoT devices or devices
Yeah.
sending little bits of information, we're not talking about video or heavy data requirements, generally small amounts of data. Some might require low latency, some not so much, depending on the use case. But we're finding that the customers are becoming a bit more sophisticated in understanding that it's not just the amount of data that needs to be sent. Generally, we're quite accustomed to how many megabytes or tens of megabytes do I need. It's actually there's the cost of not just transporting the data into the cloud, is actually getting it and processing it through the cloud in a secure manner and getting it to the endpoint it needs to go to. And in a way, something that we did find is that the Sorghum offering takes care of all of that, being AWS native, and also having direct integrations into the likes of Azure and GCP means that the data can get there reliably with low latency and a low cost altogether, without having the partners having to build that, if you the complex software, if you like, or that part of the solution, or having to have some people to manage it, which adds to the business costs. Taking the megabyte or the amount of data that needs to be transported there's a lot more to it in getting an end-to-end solution, and having the right solution partner makes a big difference. And when you're looking at scale,
Yeah, but connectivity is just the first step. It's what happens after that, or through that whole process, and what data is being used, and what services are being utilized from that connectivity. And as you said, now customers are coming, or now companies are realizing that the security aspect, the data processing, the storage, and many of these, if it's not your core business, you're taking it from one company and taking another part from another company and taking another part in house, and all of these things are just increasing costs, decreasing efficiency and productivity, especially when you have 5 people or 5 companies to manage. Stop having things all under one roof, taken care of by someone that has hands-on experience with many different companies and many different types. So there's always like a learning process as well. I think that's where the benefit is of Thinxtra as well. You've been in the business for a long while. Your consultancy and leading your customers through this whole process. Once they finalize, there will be no surprises. It will just be organized and taken care of. It's always nice to have someone that can hold your hand and take you through the minefield.
absolutely. And somebody with expertise looking sometimes, and it's very hard for businesses sometimes to look at, call it the requirements holistically, but taking that pause at the beginning and saying, where, what do I really need right now? Can I be doing, as I'm gonna be forced, if you like, to do a changeover at some point in the near future? Should I be considering, one, the right partner? Number two, my requirements end to end, and where do I think my business is going to be in, or what do I want it to be in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? Because the landscape changes all the time. And also relationships between telcos change. And what you want is, at the end of the day, if you're looking at it from a customer centric point of view, you don't want any impact to the customer. While connectivity is expected these days to be reliable, so having to put in the effort to establish multiple commercial relationships to make sure, if as a business you want to expand into a new country, or you decide there's a new territory that you want to move your product into, you don't want to have the heavy unexpected uplift or amount of effort to put in to just move your product there. The right connectivity or solution provider should be able just to enable that for you and say, yeah, it's a tiny step and you're ready to go. And it's always is a good surprise. And that's when the payback of, or the fruits of having done the analysis and the thought process earlier on before you make that transition is paid off.
Yep. That's where Soracom comes in. Our multi-provider IMSI relationships, our EUICC product basically guarantee that there's no way that you'll be caught unawares in any country. Our strategy has been and is always with regards to all of these changing dynamics in the telecoms world. Either if it's got to do with permanent roaming or have localization and all of these things. So that kind of keeping connectivity as the first step, but it's like the basic need. And that's Sorocom. We always have that in mind. It's always been our strategy to ensure that across the board, as global as possible, that that connectivity is there and will always be there. And if there are any issues along the line, it's just a profile swap. It's just loading something else, an OTA, whatever that would be, just guaranteeing that the customer really doesn't have to worry about things so much. And then taking it to the next step as well. They don't have to worry about the connectivity, the security. They just have to worry about the management and delivery and basically their sales and their revenues and their costs, and keeping things as profitable as possible and as customer centric as possible. I think that's where Sorocom and Thinxtra always has had those see eye to eye on this customer centricity being like number one in our minds from whatever we do. Okay, we want to do this. How would it affect customers? How would it do this? So I think it's interesting times. It's interesting times. It's an opportunity, although it does sound like, okay, my devices won't have connectivity, but every now and then it's a nice way to refresh, do your inventory, review what you have, what you can do. As you said, keep in mind as well the longevity of your product, the longevity of the services as well, how you can adapt and adjust and what is required. So I think it's an opportunity, not the best one, but it is an opportunity. It's like when you have a midlife crisis, you take the opportunity to look into your health again. Oh yeah, I need to look into that. So this
Yes.
could be that kind of thing as well. Yeah.
And one of the great things I must say I love about the Sorocom platform is the automation levels that are in there. managing a unique, call it SIM card for a phone is a little bit different when you're managing a fleet of, call it millions or tens of thousands of SIMs. And sometimes having the manual effort, or once these have been deployed, to manually operate them and modify them, and whether it's for security reasons or termination or movement, as it would happen. The nice thing about the Soracom platform is its SIM management can be automated and driven through other platforms as well, the end user platform, which is great. And I think one of the key benefits of being cloud native and being AWS is that there's data sovereignty requirements can be easily addressed. And we've had that in some use cases. Some utilities do require that. Some countries for local regulations, or sometimes even customer specifications, they want the data never to leave the territory, and that's easily implemented.
No,
And
exactly.
just yeah, and then the other part of outages happen. It's inevitable. Any local network would have an outage. The ability and the smarts in the SIM card to be able to hop from network to network intelligently by itself is definitely a reliability bonus. That's quite important when reliability and continuous communication is quite important. You don't have to worry. So if an outage on one network happens, the SIM card can switch to another one, which means end customer doesn't get affected, and happy days for everyone.
Yeah, that's the basics of it as well. That you need that connectivity, and you have in mind you need like a multi-IMSI, multi-network solution. Have that continuous, at least the minimum amount of downtime as possible. As you said, you can't always get away from downtime. It does happen every now and then, but at least pushing that through, making sure that it's not like a tragic downtime. It's just a temporary one until things swap over. Or
You're really
to something.
minimizing the impact.
It's minimizing that impact. And that's Sorocom as well. Always look at the big picture in the sense of, yeah, we have services there that are manageable, but have to be manageable on scale. The scalability is, especially for IoT, it's really important. You have devices, millions of devices, thousands of devices, and managing those one by one is not feasible in any shape or form. Sorocom's design, our mentality of this is to take care of the smaller customers and the larger customers. Just keep everything there, make things as smooth and as simple and as easy as possible, and as cost effective as possible as well. It does come down to cost as well. That's always like the main thing in mind as well. Now, being across the table from many CFOs, operational directors, and they're always like, okay, I my budget is this. How can I fit into this? And you're like, okay, let's examine it. This is the opportunity as well. Let's examine what you're paying now. What do you need to do to have this service? Let's see how we can bring that all into one roof, into one bucket, and see how we can move that around. That's the discussion that needs to be done. And many companies have not had that discussion. It's been like by the time they go through the whole process of designing their product, testing their product, and going to market, the other costs pile up, and they don't realize that they're piling up. It's just like an add-on, and it happens. So this is as we said, the opportunity to really get into these details and fine tune everything with a reliable partner, with a reliable service. And I think between us, there's no aspect that we haven't had in mind with regards to this kind of, like, all of the details have been covered one way or the other. There's continuous discussions with this. Yeah, it's bad, but it's good. It's bad, but it's good. And one of those things that has to happen.
I like the global reach with their minimum friction.
Exactly. Our overall strategy, or carrier services strategy, has always been global, regional, local, depending on the use case. There there are cases whereby local regulations mean that you have to have a local profile or from a local MNO. That data cannot leave the country. But the good thing about Soracom is that we have capabilities and the ability to really just put that through as smooth as possible. We have customers doing that in some regions whereby this regulation is really strict and has to be done. They take our global SIM and then we log the local profile. The customer really doesn't notice when that happens as well. And through our platform, there's no need for them to notice in any case. So that data that they're receiving or the information they're receiving from their devices that they need. They're still there and it's seamless. I think we're in a nice position.
No, it's good.
It, it,
Then we definitely look forward to supporting more customers
that,
alongside us. And
exactly.
yeah, the next 12 months will be very interesting.
I believe so as well. And I mean, I know from, at least from my experience with Thinxtra as well, you really do have the know-how, the dedication, and the, how can I say, the information and all of the tools that you need to really help customers and walk them through the whole process and really help them streamline everything and prepare and analyze. And I think any of your customers are lucky to have you there as well, just by their side, having that little hands-on.
Definitely local support and in-person support is always
Oh, yeah.
a benefit and is a big plus.
Yeah, and you build those relationships. It's like our one. It's the relationships that make the difference as well. I think customers can rely on, if I pick up the phone or send a message or raise a ticket, whatever it is, with Thinxtra, someone's going to be there and they know that whatever the case would be, there's going to be a solution, and a quick one and a nice one and a beneficial one, which is the main thing.
Soracom's on the front foot of building the roadmap. Was it recently you were in the Gartner, or was it top quadrant?
Yeah,
Or
yeah. We were recently in the visionary top quadrant. So
that's excellent.
that's a
As you're
good thing.
looking ahead.
Yeah, yeah. That's a good part. Sorocom is a company that has the today and the future in mind as well. Today from what customers are experiencing and what they will experience. Good times ahead, interesting times ahead, at least. That's nice.
Excellent. It was good talking to you.
But talk to you as well. Let's do it again soon. See how it comes and see if there are any kind of details that come up that we need to think about, either from your side or from our side. This communication between us and this exchange of discussion is always a nice thing to have.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Chat
All right then.
soon.
Take
Bye bye.
care. Thanks. Bye bye. Bye bye.